It was a massive year for our next guest here on the KTM Summer Grill, both stateside in America and in Porsches here in Australia. And he looks set for a huge year in 2024. Joining Andrew Van Leeuwen and I on this edition is Callum Hedge, all the way from New Zealand. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, Rusty, for having me on. Looking forward to having a chat.
What did that Porsche Carrera Cup win when you finally sealed it on the streets of Adelaide feel like, given how competitive that class of racing is at the moment and given the calibre of winners that have come before you in it?
Yeah, it's safe to say that I shed a tear or two, to be honest. Like, I've been chasing that goal for 3 years now, and all I wanted to do was just be able to win that championship. It was, for me, the most competitive series I've ever raced in. The guys racing against all the V8 supercar guys, people that I watched on TV since I was 5, 6 years old. It was cool to be door to door with them and to put myself to the test and win the whole thing whilst missing a weekend. For me, was very special.
When you sort of saw Jackson having those issues in the mirror at the start of that last race, what was sort of going through your head at that point?
Yeah, obviously I knew that now the goal was just to finish, but finishing was going to be a bit harder because now my car was also damaged. It was 3 cars into one there, and no one was going to lift. Someone had to, and it certainly wasn't going to be me. So yeah, that's just how it was.
That was wild, like bouncing through the chicane there. You must have been. I mean, that's championship on the line, hanging on for dear life. Like that's real motor racing.
Yeah, it was either win it or bin it. Just go out there, have a crack. It was whoever finished in front of who was going to win it. So the goal for me was to make sure that I won it. It was a shame actually to see it end like that because I wanted to duke it out for probably 10, 12 laps and put on a good show for the TV because I feel that would have been quite cool and fitting to end the championship like that. But it's a shame it ended like that.
In the meantime, you also were juggling a crazy travel schedule, going to America, and you had a great year in the United States too, didn't you?
Yeah, it was quite interesting heading over there. Like just after CT Frock was ending, it was all put together very last minute on the last weekend of TRS in New Zealand. And I pretty much jumped on the plane 2 weeks later and headed to America for 2 weeks. I'd never been there, sort of got stuck into it, learnt a bit in the first weekend. And then from there, the goal was make sure that we seal that championship with obviously the Honda scholarship, which was something very cool. It was originally supposed to be Super Formula, but we transferred it to Indy Lights and really excited to get involved in that and have a crack.
How many zeros are on the end of your frequent flyer points balance at the moment? I can imagine you've got a few. You did some miles in planes this year.
Yeah, I earned Air New Zealand Elite twice.
You probably let you fly the plane by now, I reckon.
I almost earned it for the 3rd time.
Tell me about having someone. I mean, you've got a few good people around you now. Tony Quinn Foundation to advice from people like Steve Horn. What's it meant having people like that in your corner?
Yeah, it's super cool to have people like that, like in my corner. They've all been to the top of racing and they've made it at the top, and they've been professional for years and years and years, and they've coached drivers through. And I've never been a professional driver, so for me it's cool to learn from them and see how they've gone about it over the years, take their advice, and then also add my own sort of swing of it.
Was it tough jumping between an open wheel? Obviously, you started the year in an open wheeler, and then you were jumping between a tin top and an open wheeler during the year. How difficult was that transition?
Sometimes it was a little bit difficult, but most of the times I found that it wasn't too much of an issue. At the end of the day, they were similar cars for me. The engine was still in the back. They both had a bit of aerodynamics. They were both on slick tires. So it was interesting. Sometimes I would go out and adapt within the first lap or two. But sometimes I would take a session or two just with some of your driving techniques, some of the very specific details going into each car. Sometimes they would be a bit wrong. I'll use an example from Townsville in the first practice session where I just jumped off the plane from America, come over, and I was braking the car way too hard, driving it like a single seater, and I was like 8th or 9th or something in the first practice, and took one look at the data, didn't even look at it, and realized that I was trying to drive it like a single seater, changed my driving in the next session, and we were straight away right back on the pace. So sometimes you find yourself getting a little bit confused, but 9 times out of the 10, it's all right.
Sorry.
There you go.
Just given that you're going down this Indy NXT path, does that sort of tell us that you do want to be an open wheel driver? You want to be an IndyCar driver?
Yeah, for sure. That's the goal now. It's a bit of a direction shift, but Steve said to me a few years ago to aim a bit higher than what I was aiming for. So
does that mean you were aiming at supercars to begin with? Was that sort of your initial plan?
yeah, that and some stuff with just being a GT driver around the world. He said that I should be aiming higher than that. So I picked something and had a go at it.
What do you reckon the best piece of advice he's given you is? I mean, there's someone who was immersed in the champ car paddock. He's worked in supercars in roles as well. What kind of key things has he helped you with?
For me, he's sort of brought me out of my shell a lot. When I first met him, it was in 2021. I was very quiet, quite introverted. Still am, and I don't like to be very public with my life. But he sort of opened it up to me on I have to do these things and really become more of a complete racing driver.
So what's next, mate? Obviously, you'll spend a bit of time in New Zealand for Christmas, but I would imagine you'll be departing for America fairly soon thereafter, will you?
Yeah, so I'm off on the 5th of January, and I'll go over there for a test at Sebring, and then we'll do a race in St. Petersburg, and then I'll come back to New Zealand after that for a few weeks.
You've sort of done the hard yards this year, like we were talking about, flying all over the world, racing very different cars, different categories. From here, is it time to sort of focus in on what you want to do? Like if you want to get to IndyCar, is it about now really honing in and perfecting your technique for what works for big, powerful open wheelers?
Yeah, for sure. Like obviously each car is slightly different, and I feel sometimes I didn't quite get 110% out of each car just because I was used to driving something a bit different from the weekend before. Most of the time, you sort of jump in and just have to drag a lap time out of it. So it'll be cool to drive the same car for an entire championship and a bunch of testing in that same car and actually really knuckle down. I feel the level of field is even higher again than what I'm used to racing this year. So I'm looking forward to really getting pushed and trying to bring the best out of me.
Callum, what about, people like Scott McLaughlin, Scott Dixon? They're held in such high regard in the IndyCar paddock. Are they people that you can potentially draw a bit off as you take the next steps here?
Yeah, I think so for sure. There's a lot of Kiwis over there, not just drivers, mechanics, engineers, staff, just for a lot of the team. So it'll be cool to go over there and learn off some of those guys. But I've never really met Scott McLaughlin or Scott Dixon formally. So I'm looking forward to going over there. I'm going to be training at PitFit Gym, which Scott Dixon trains at for many years now. So I'm really looking forward to going over there, meeting some of those guys and drawing from all their experience.
Crazy rapid rate, all this stuff from the youngster who was in a Toyota 86, it seems like yesterday. Have you paused and thought about that?
Yeah, it feels like yesterday, to be honest. Like even just the shift in direction across 12 months where I was doing one Porsche Carrera Cup race every 3 weeks to then traveling to a different country every weekend, racing 20-something times this year and being competitive and everything. So for me, that's been quite a weird feeling, being able to achieve so much in such a short period of time. But we're nowhere near finished the job.
From all of us here at the Summer Grill, congratulations and best wishes for 2024, Callum.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thank you very much for having me on.
There he is, Callum Hedge, and that wraps up another edition of the KTM Summer Grill. Whatever you do, make sure you stay tuned. Keep an eye on the Speed Cafe website tomorrow morning to see who joins us next.
You could be a winner each episode of the Summer Grill. KTM are giving you the chance to win a bar stool, a mug, and this race-inspired clock as well. So there's more good reasons to tune in and hear from some of the stars of world motorsport here as a part of the KTM Summer Grill. All you got to do is click on the link below, fill in your details, and you could be in the running to win.